but I'll kick us off. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Rio speaking. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's really great to see everybody here. Um, I am going to be admitting folks, so if you see me kind of moving my mouse around the screen, that is why. I have the honor of introducing our host for this month, Charles Sarba. Charles uses he, him pronouns, and Charles has overcome many challenges in his past that have shaped him into who he is today. He is an advocate for Rev Up Illinois and the Going Home Coalition. He has been an attendee at Speak Up, Speak Out conferences and other disability-centered events. He is an advocate for resilience, healing, and personal empowerment, encouraging people to believe that no matter where they come from or what they faced, they can rise and create a better future. He is a former resident of two different SODCs, and he now lives in the community in Asilla, and he is an extremely active community member. He is an actor, and he is also an aspiring chef. And I am going to pass things over to Charles now.
Housekeeping. A recording of this meeting will be sent out along with notes and a link to the presentation within the week. Please keep yourself muted while our presenter is talking. Please leave questions until the end of the presentation. Captioning is available by pressing the CC button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And please be respectful. Okay, next one. Do you start from the top or just skip my two?
You can start at the Disability Policy
Okay.
Center.
Disability Policy Seminar Report back, Rio Goodwin Perez. Tracking legislation using
That's fine.
I
Get to your birthday stuff.
understand. News we're watching. Good Rio Goodwin Perez. Voter registration discussion, everyone, and what's
All right, thanks, Charles. And I'm not sure who has their mic on in the background, but if you don't mind just muting yourself, so everyone except for Charles and I can have our mics on right now. That way there's no background and folks who are listening are able to hear. Thank you so much. So as some of you guys know, last week was the Disability Policy Seminar in Washington, D.C. And on your screen, you can see a photo of about 40 of us. You can see Bob there. Some of you guys know Vincent Smith as well. Samantha, we had lots of folks from Lend who were there, so you can see Jin is right in the center. Michael from the Arc of the Quad Cities. We had representation from the Arc Winnebago, Amy and Shauna. So it was a really, really diverse and lovely group. It was 2 days. The first day was the policy seminar. So we discussed different policies that are affecting our community. And then our second day was a Hill Day. So we spent the full day on Capitol Hill meeting with our senators and our representatives, talking to them about healthcare, disability funding, and education. So to kick things off, the first session was about centering disabled voices in policy decisions. So we had Meredith Sadulay, Nicole LeBlanc, Sarah Carmody, Melody Cooper, and Julian Wang. All of them are disabled self-advocates, and they talked about their experiences and their journey to becoming self-advocates, kind of the hardships that they've had to overcome and the successes that they've experienced throughout their many, many years of advocacy. And then they also went into specifics about how disabled people will be greatly affected by cuts to SNAP, Medicaid, and SSI/SSDI, which I'm going to get into a little bit further on. And the main focus of this seminar was to reaffirm that while we are discussing policy, that disabled voices should always be at the center. So these folks reminded us of kind of the center of where we should be focusing ourselves. Those of us who are not disabled, who do not have IDD, we should always be looking to individuals with IDD who are advocates. And remember that, especially for those of us who do not have IDD and are not necessarily someone's support worker or close family member, that we do not speak for the voiceless. People with IDD can speak for themselves and are the experts on their experiences. And as we're discussing policy, we should be listening to the directions that they want to lead us in. That's what we're here for as allies. Do we have any questions about this first seminar? I know Bob is here. Bob, do you feel free to add things since you were also there? Anything you feel like I miss?
No, I think you got it. One of the things I would add is that there was there were lots of different organizations there, and like you said, uh, uh, they talked about policy, they talked about what was most important, and, and with everyone there, we were uh, we were learning something. We were learning things that we were also uh, connected as one because when you have so many people advocating for the same thing, that's very powerful. So and and seeing people uh, that I don't see outside of Zoom was very nice. So, I will add that too. But you can continue with your presentation.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I agree. It was really awesome to meet people in person who I had only previously met over Zoom. It was kind of funny that we had to go all the way to DC to meet one another in person, but it was still very lovely. So let's get into kind of the thick of things. So there were, I attended all but one of the presentations. So Bob, I don't know if you attended the DSP support seminar, but I was not able to attend. So once I get past these three, then if you want to add more, then you're welcome to.
No, I did
Okay.
not go to I was gonna go to the DSB one, but I did not. I went to several other ones.
No worries. All good. So the first seminar that we went to was Medicaid, SNAP, and Social Security, What to Know. We were led by Sam Conchurat. He is a senior policy advisor at in the U.S. Senate and Finance Committee. Um, sorry, U.S. Senate Finance Committee, excuse me. Derek Miller, senior professional staff in the Senate Agriculture Committee. Marielle Kress, Senior Health Policy Advisor for the U.S. Senate Finance Committee, Gail Mauser, Health Policy Advisor for the U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee, and then Nicole Jorwich, Chief Program Officer at Caring Across Generations, which is a wonderful group if you all are familiar with them. So, as the subject heading says, we were focusing on the effects of HR 1, the big beautiful bill, which passed last year. So we started out with a discussion about SNAP. largest SNAP cuts in US history since the implementation of the program, about $187 billion in total. It's going to affect 42 million people. And many of us are familiar with the work requirements and recertification requirements, which are going to cause many disruptions and errors at the state level. So many states are concerned with error rates, which is essentially when there are problems with recertification, if there's people who have what they consider more complex cases, this likely will result in more error rates because um, of the basically constant need for recertification. They reminded us that the recertification paperwork for SNAP is 28 pages of paperwork that has to be completed every 6 months now, which is, I mean, who wants to do that every year, let alone every 6 months? It's just going to create all of these blockages in the pipeline to receiving services. And states are also going to be taking on larger percentages of SNAP and Medicaid costs, which is going to force some states to drop parts of these programs or drop people from specific programs underneath Medicaid and SNAP. And USDA, which is in charge of SNAP, is, as they described it, hemorrhaging staff. They're losing a massive amount of staff. And what that means is for folks who receive SNAP services, when they are trying to reach out to solve problems with their cases, if they're not getting access to their funding, they're going to have a much harder time accessing an actual person to talk to. So throughout all of these sessions, the topic of AI was brought up. AI is being used to comb over people's cases right now. And obviously, as we all know, AI is a very new phenomenon. It's kind of taking over a lot of situations where real humans were previously solving case issues. So that also is causing lots of confusion, miscommunications, things like that. And if people are getting denied from services, it's most likely because an AI is doing that processing part right now. So if someone is rejected, then it's very likely that a computer, rather than a person, as it previously was actually looking at their case and saying yes or no. So that is a huge concern just across the entirety of the federal government right now, but especially for these specific programs, because as we know, there are massive uh, cuts to staffing forces. So as staff is being cut, AI programs are being brought in basically to try and kind of act as a band-aid, but we all know that it's really important for human eyes to be seeing these cases. Jumping into Medicaid, we're looking at nearly $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid across the board. And as these experts were speaking to us, they really just hammered it home that because home and community-based services are not mandated federally, they are facing attacks from all sides. That a lot of states are basically looking at their budgets right now and they're saying, what can we afford to keep and what can't we? And for those states that really, really rely on federal support for Medicaid services, home and community-based services are, excuse me, often the ones that come under attack first. So that's something that we really need to be aware of. Most of us are already aware of this in our in this room, but it's just very important to be reminded of that fact. In addition to this,
I was just gonna add,
sure.
Governor Pritzker is the governor of Illinois, and he is basically saying the same thing that that all the professionals have said because because the state can't make up the money that the government gives the state. So when when 20 when 2020 when 27 comes, we're going to be we're going to be hit and we're going to be hit hard.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for adding that. So like Bob said, the amount of money that is being lost is a truly massive amount of funding, and it's impossible for any of the states, and Illinois included, to make up that massive loss in funding. So folks are having to get really creative, and unfortunately, a lot of really important programs are going to kind of be first in line on the chopping block. I also thought it was important to note that there is essentially no oversight built into HR1 as they've described it to us. So there is really no way to measure the specific effects of cuts across the states because there is no oversight mechanism built into HR1. So while we're seeing like these massive cuts, there's no data collection process that is federally mandated for us to see what the actual effects of the cuts are going to be. So it's going to be up to the states to be on top of data collection when it comes to the effects of this giant loss in funding. And basically, states only have a few options for making up for balancing the loss in funding. So they have the option to cut services, cut hours, and cut individuals from programs. And that's something that we are seeing already. We're going to continue seeing, and it's something that we need to really be communicating to our elected officials, especially if we have folks in our community that have specific stories that we can share with our elected officials. They're really looking for that. Um, and as we are all familiar with, HCBS already has a large wait list for services, especially residential services, and all of these staffing cuts and funding cuts are going to result in ballooning wait lists, and it's going to be resulting in cuts to very necessary services. That is all I have for Medicaid and SNAP. Any questions? I can't see if folks have their hands raised. If not, I can just move on. Bob, did you have anything to add?
No, the Medicaid and HCBS are two things that providers count on the most. And, and that is what uh, we all we all use to eat with. So without that, or with the being cut as deeply as it is, providers are having to come up with different ways of getting money, getting food for money. But for now, uh, um, I know that that the Arc of the Quad City has got a plan for when that happens. It's already happening, but it's going to happen even more. And I do know that the Arc of the Quad City's got a plan. I do know that many other many other agencies do too. It's just that the uh, the the things that the things that lawmakers don't think of is the people, and to them, we're just we're just numbers on a piece of paper. But I can tell you from experience, do I look like a number on a piece of paper? I mean, yeah, I get funding, yeah, I get this, but we are all people that are on this call, and we are all people that were at the conference. So, the number one thing I want parents and advocates to understand is we are people, but we're also needing services, and, and if we don't have HCBS, there is no more community anything. So we really have to fight and nail this down. And one of the things we're working on is making HCBS permanent, and that means that the government has to pay for it. So it's not an option no more. But we're still working on it. But that is something that I'm striving for. And if we can get it over the finish line, that would be great. But at the same time, the thing that would be more helpful to all of us is wishful thinking that we can get rid of HR1. But that's wishful thinking. But I could talk forever. But go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Thanks for that. That's really important. Everything that you just said. So thank you for sharing. I want to talk about education. So the second seminar that I attended was the education update with Sarah Mueller, Disability Policy Director, on the U.S. Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. Matthew Golden, Legislative Assistant to Representative McBath, Democrat from Georgia. Lori Vanderplug, I don't want to brutalize her name, Executive Director for Professional Affairs at the Council for Exceptional Children, and Sydney Badeau, Advocacy and Outreach Specialist at the ARC of Wisconsin. So starting off, we heard a little bit about the work that Senator Bernie Sanders and other senators are doing to demand that the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, come and testify in front of the Senate regarding her work in her office. That is likely to happen in the coming weeks. And as it was described to us, Linda McMahon is essentially completely unaware that these massive changes are happening to the entire Department of Education, but especially to the special education department. HR1 introduced a private school voucher tax credit, which is the first time in US history that a federal private school voucher has been introduced. So the way that this works is that for people who make 300% of their area's median income, when they file their taxes, they are eligible to donate $1,700 to private schools and receive a dollar for dollar tax credit. So basically, they're getting money off of their taxes if they donate to this fund. And the fund is distributed to private schools, which are going to use the money for scholarships and other services. And essentially is a codified way to take funding away from public education. And the way that the folks who were speaking to us were describing it to us, is that by creating this fund, by incentivizing people to donate money to private schools, they are creating a system of discrimination, essentially a system that is divided into schools for the rich and schools for the poor. Private schools do not have the same sort of oversight that public schools do. And so they have the freedom to turn away students with disabilities. So if we're talking about the entirety of the education system in the United States, the more money that we funnel away from public schools, the more discrimination will happen because public schools will have less funding to provide services. Families will be forced to attempt to find special education in the private sector, and private schools will have the opportunity to say, no, we don't want to serve you. Like your child has too complex of needs, and essentially just disallow students from attending school. So it's something to be very aware of and to be speaking to our senators about is this essentially like stratification of the education system that creates a system for rich and for poor. And I just thought it was important and unfortunate to note that while Doge, the department was going on their kind of um, grants cut spree. They canceled the Charting My Path to Success program due to the word transition in the grant application because they were targeting the LGBTQ plus community. And this is another instance of federal staffers using AI because essentially what they're doing, and I actually listened to a podcast about the deposition of the men who are working on Doge. They used ChatGPT and they created an entire like Excel spreadsheet of all of the different grants, and then they plugged a ChatGPT into the Excel. I'm like not a computer scientist, so I don't really know how it works, but basically, they were able to type, find all grants that have transition or focus on DEI, and then the ChatGPT would essentially uh, recommend grants to cancel. So that is the way that the Charting My Path to Success program was canceled. I've seen like, for example, there was like a research study being done on transgenic rats, and it was canceled because it had the word trans in it. So these folks in the federal government, as they were like finding fraud and cutting out waste, they were using AI to basically just not read and go through and cut everything that had the word trans in it or transition or women or things like that. So there's a lot of instances of really important grants getting cut because the LGBTQ plus community was being targeted by Doge. So that is just really, really unfortunate. And it's unfortunate in many ways, but it's really sad to see that that program was cut for that reason. Um, Also, the Office of Special Education Programs at the Department of Education has basically, as they described it, been decimated. Their staff has been cut, like essentially completely. And this office is responsible for administering $15 billion in special education funding. And they are the ones who are responsible for implementing the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, which protects the rights of students with disabilities and protects their rights in schools, protects their rights to education. And this entire office has essentially been decimated. And the federal government is now considering moving the Office of Special Education Programs to a completely different agency. I believe, I don't want to speak incorrectly, but I do believe that they're considering moving it to the Department of Health and Human Services. If that's the case, we all know kind of the agenda of RFK Jr. and how he has been specifically targeting students with disabilities, people with autism, in an attempt to find a cure for autism, etc. So, if if OSEP gets moved to HHS, it's just opening the office up to just further damage, essentially. And then I did want to bring up, which I forgot to write on the slides, but the way that they're moving around all of these different offices to different agencies is they're using something called interagency agreements or IAAs. And the interagency agreements are essentially these like memos where two agencies agree to, it's pretty straightforward, agree to basically one agency will agree to take on the work of another agency. This is a way for the administration to basically bypass Congress and any sort of like legislative protections that are in place because they're able to just kind of in back rooms in the middle of the night, create these interagency agreements and just say we're moving it without any sort of congressional oversight. So this is the case of what's been happening to the Office of Special Education Programs, this like considered move that they are working on that will be because of an interagency agreement, and this has happened to several other agencies as well outside of the IDD space. Before I move on, do we have any questions about education? Oh, I see we have some stuff in the chats. Oh yeah. So Greg has been dropping in information about these cuts, these budget cuts, Medicaid, education, into the chat. So if you're following along, you'll be able to see um just some more information if you're curious about the cuts. And then if you don't feel comfortable asking questions now, feel free to just shoot me a DM. You can also send me an email and we can chat so that we all understand kind of what the repercussions of all of these kind of federal changes will be. So I want to move into legislative visits because I know it's already 6:36 and I want to go over legislation. And I'm sorry I've been speaking so much. But we had the opportunity to meet with so many representatives and both of our senators' offices. And actually, we had two meetings with Senator Duckworth's office. And I personally went to Senator Duckworth's office, Senator Durbin, and Representative Jackson. And we had very excellent meetings with them. The senators were especially in agreement with everything that we discussed with them. We brought up the importance of protecting Medicaid. We brought up the importance of protecting the Office of Special Education Programs. And we also just spoke about general protection for IDD funding, things like the councils, things like that. So you can all rest assured that your senators are very much enraged on your behalf and they want to hear from you. So they are really relying on us to share our stories about how these cuts are affecting our community. They said, Senator Durbin's office said, when Senator Durbin is speaking on the Senate floor, he loves to share personal stories about people's experiences. They really rely on it as they're arguing in support of our rights. So, if you are interested in contacting your senator or representative and you don't feel comfortable doing that on your own, but you really want to share your story, please reach out to me. That way I can start to arrange a meeting for you. That way you're able to share your story. And it's so important. And all of them really reiterated that to us, that they are in support of us. They are just as mad as us, and they are there every day fighting for our rights. And they want to hear from us as well. So
I
as I
I I
go ahead,
I
Bob.
I have one question, which is, do we have a one pager about all of this? I know you had one pager for DC. Do you
Mhm.
have any more?
Yes, I do. I have plenty of one pagers left. So if you guys are interested in speaking with your representatives or senators, let me know and I can send out that one pager, or I can also just send it out when I'm sending out the presentation notes if that's better for folks. That way we all have it.
I just think that I just think it would be good to have the one pager so that I can take it to or email it to David Dunker's office and his office and other people's offices and stuff like
Sure.
that.
Yep, I can definitely get that to you, Bob.
Great.
So like I mentioned, we want to advocate when we're meeting with our representatives for full funding for DD programs, full support of the Individual with Disabilities Education Act programs, the repeal of Medicaid cuts and changes in HR1 and a restoration of the funding that was lost, making HCBS a mandated Medicaid waiver, and providing better ACA tax credits so people don't lose coverage. So I want to move on unless anyone has specific questions about the policy seminar. And if you don't, that is just fine. So what I want to do is actually, Greg, since you're here, do you want to talk about what's been going on with Kiki's Law? Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. I can speak about that anytime. So Kiki's Law is also known as it's the Protective Medical Equipment Freedom, also known as Kiki's Law. It's Senate Bill 3340. It is currently passed out of committee and has been read 3 times on the floor. We are doing a roll call behind the scenes. We currently have 27 last I heard, somewhere right in there. Solid yeses, a few people leaning yes. One of the issues is a couple Democrats that have lost their election have not been seen in Springfield since.
Mm,
And so we need to know, are they going to be there for the vote or are they not? That also includes Laura Fine right now, and she is a co-sponsor of the bill and one of the votes we're counting on. So we're having to do some behind the scenes roll call work essentially to get it passed. Once that passed, it'll be sent over to the House, where our sponsor representative Saeed will pick it up, introduce it there, and we'll be back to everybody asking for witness slips and calls to their representatives.
awesome. Any questions for Greg?
That was my question.
Go ahead.
There is no witness list added yet because even though it passed out of committee, there's still work to do to get it to where people are asking for witness lists.
We need to get it passed out of the Senate because what we're doing is we're using the Senate bill in the House. So we will not be doing its companion bill, HB 4848. We will be sending the Senate bill over. So the language is the exact same and it'll be what. So SB 3340 is what it'll be called from now until the end. Okay. So that's what we have to do. And then once that's there, we intend to call it on the 14th, which is the first week the Senate is back in session. It is not in session currently. So
So the 14th is when you're gonna do witness lists.
14th, 15th, or 16th, it'll go to a full vote on the floor. We will not need witness slips for that. When it goes back over to the House, Bob, it'll be then assigned a committee, and
Yeah,
that's when you have to do witness slips to get it out of the committee and back to the full House floor. Okay? Does that
got
make
it.
sense?
I got it.
All right.
Nice. Okay, awesome. So look out for some news next week from Greg and the team about Kiki's Law. And then also we have Shirley here. Shirley, I don't know if you want to talk about your bill and what the current progress is. Sorry to put you on the spot. I should have let you know. But
Oops. Sorry. Yes, you did put me on the spot. I
sorry, Shirley.
apologize. You are a tricky one, Rio.
Sorry.
But I just wanted to mention, I appreciate all the support from everyone as well, for our bill. We are still obviously in the Human Services Committee, and we will be there until I believe, if I understand the process, until we understand more about the costs associated with it, which is really some startup, to start to build the infrastructure and the different pieces that would be needed for something like supported living. So we really are learning a lot about the process, to be honest, but that's where we are. We are expecting to be part of a subject matter hearing, although I'm waiting to get more details. As you all know, this all happened really fast last week, and it's been very hard this week because it feels like everybody's on vacation. So,
They are. They're both not in.
They
Shirley,
are.
just so
They
you
are
know,
on
you're
vacation.
back in Rules Committee. I noticed earlier today.
oh, I
Oh,
Your
did not
bill
know.
is back it was transferred back to Rules, and that's because
Okay.
the deadlines for moving out of committee were a while back. It was
Okay.
Friday of last week or whatever, but you're sitting in Rules again, just so you know.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I
No
thought
problem.
we stayed in human services while we worked through the financials, but well, thank you. Now I know where we are again.
But if you stay there too long, you'll die.
I'm sorry.
I said, if you stay in rules, if you stay in the if your bill stays in the rules committee too long, it will die.
Well, I know, yes, that it's possible that that happens, but I
Yeah.
think because there's this financial piece attached and they are working it, they're having discussions about it. I think we still have
No,
options.
I'm not saying you will die. I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
we know.
that's where those go to die.
Yeah,
I'm not
but I
saying
think,
that you will do that.
yeah, I do think we have a couple paths of possibilities. And so we're going to just keep pushing hard and see how far we get. I mean, that's what we wanted to do with this legislative session, it is try to get as far as we can and educate legislators and really, all of that good stuff.
Perfect.
So,
Right.
Making the legislators aware of stuff is always a big component of a bill. So you're doing the right thing, Shirley.
right.
It's
We
always
know,
important. It's always important to do education.
yeah, right. Yeah, we're expecting it's a multi-year runway, of course. So
Right.
it's but we had a really nice first outing with the witness flips. I mean, we had well over 800, which was pretty good for what I call our first swing. So,
Very true.
mhm.
it's a great
Okay,
number. Thank you, Shirley. Let us know how we can continue to support
I
you
will.
and your work. So important.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. I'll go back to
Sure.
listening.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot again, guys. And then finally, Frank Lally from Access Living is not here today, but he did share an update about the plain language ballot bill. And I just want to read it so that I have the right information. Sorry, guys. Oh my gosh. Okay. So he says the plain language bill is in a bit of a holding pattern right now. He's meeting with their lobbyist tomorrow to see if they can resolve a concern that a stakeholder brought up. And then he'll share more information about the bill itself. And then just a reminder that the plain language ballot bill is part of a larger voting rights bill. So we won't be lobbying for the individual bill itself, but basically it will be like an amendment in this specific large voting rights bill. So we will hear more updates from Access Living regarding that. I know it's 6:48, but I want to show you guys something that the team at Access Living showed Jennifer and I, and that is how to use ILGA to create your own legislative tracker. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go to the ilga.gov website where most of us are familiar with it. Um, and if you haven't already created an account on ILGA, this is where you want to start. So you'll make your account, and then when you go sorry, I have all my cookies always turned off because I don't like to be tracked. So when you go to this kind of like main account page, you'll see where it says My Legislation. So My Legislation is basically their bill tracking tool. And the great thing about this tool is that you can split your tracking into several different categories. So you can see here that we have created a category for Access Living House bills, Senate bills, the Alliance for Community Services Senate bills, ARC of Illinois House and Senate bills. And that's just a way for us to keep track of all of the different types of categories. So what Frank was explaining to me is that their team, they use basically like topics to divide their bills. So Frank will have all of his education bills and all of his voting rights bills, and Sebastian will have his healthcare bills and things like that. And they all share a single account, and that way their whole team can kind of keep track of it. So that's what Jennifer and I have been doing is we share an account and we're able to see all of the bills that we're keeping track of all together. So if you hover over this green eye, you can see that all of your bills are here listed out in sort of like a spreadsheet format. And the great thing about this is that you can see the primary sponsor, the overview of the bill, it's kind of like current status, where it is, which legislative body it's in, and then the most recent update is in this right-hand side. So you can just quickly scan through and see that HB 4179, the $10 million appropriations bill to implement dignity and pay, is scheduled for a committee hearing on April 9th, which is next week at 8 a.m. So if there's a hearing scheduled, it's listed just right down here in bold, and it's really easy to kind of scan through and see what the most recent updates are. And I'm not sure how many of you have like experience doing legislative tracking, but what we noticed is that as we're using our spreadsheet, it's really hard to keep updating by hand all of these pieces of legislation that you're tracking. So the great thing about this tool is that it's integrated directly into ILGA. So if a change happens, if it moves out of committee, if there's a vote scheduled, blah, 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 then you'll automatically see it rather than someone else having to manually update it. So if you go to the My Legislation menu over here, you can press Add Bills. And if you're starting from scratch, you won't see any categories. So you'll have the opportunity to create a new category here. What you'll do is you can write the name in of the legislation, and then down here, you're gonna write in the specific number of the bill. And then you will, if you need to, add a comment and then save it. And then when you go back to your legislation, it'll be up to date. And the greatest thing about this is that you can also download your bills as a spreadsheet or as a Word document. So I'll just open that and show you guys what it looks like. So instead of you having to create a separate document, you can just use your most up-to-date version. So you can see here it's pretty straightforward and it's easy to read from my perspective. And it is a document, so you can kind of change things around. You can enable editing. If you open it in the CSV version, then it's going to open in an Excel spreadsheet, and it will just make things easier for tracking. So yeah, any questions about using ILGA?
Know the way I need to use it, I'll ask for help.
Okay, perfect. So we are right at 6:54. I know this was a lot of me talking. Um, Amber says, I'd like the one pager. I can definitely send that to you. And Amber also says, Shirley, my Republican representative, responded personally to my email about your bill. Rep Tipsword, District 105. He's never responded about any other bill I have emailed or called about. Awesome. So I'm going to pass things back to Charles. And Charles, why don't you close us out?
What's coming up? April 22nd from 6 to 7, Going Home Collision member meeting. May 7th from 6 to 7, Rev Up Illinois member meeting. May 20th, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., Going Home Collision member meeting. Next. Digital, how do you say that again?
Literacy.
Okay. Digital literacy series, Frauds and Scams, April 7th at 10 a.m., May 12th at 10 a.m., Internet Security, April 14th at 10 a.m., May 19th at 10 a.m., Online Safety, April 21st at 10 a.m., also May 26th at 10 a.m., Digital Citizenship, April 27th at 10 a.m., and also June 2nd at 10 a.m. Next. Digital little I keep getting a tongue twister on
It's
that.
okay. You don't have to read through the whole page. I just wanted to draw attention to this QR code. Jennifer's going to be leading a digital literacy series where she'll help folks with IDD get more comfortable online using their devices, etc. If you or your family member is interested in attending, you can just scan this QR code with your phone. Otherwise, I'm going to be sending out this link so you don't have to worry that you will miss it. And if you have access to the chat, I think Greg put a link to register in the chat as well.
Thank you for attending today's meeting.
Thanks, everyone. It was great to see you guys. I hope everyone has a great rest of your month. And I'll see you at the next meeting. Hopefully, you all come to the Going Home Coalition meeting coming up soon.
See y'all. Thank you.
Y'all.
Bye.